Welcome back. So, Brassy, ouch, man. That was a painful loss for you, for all your fans. What happened there, Brassy?
But it was an exciting win for all of Kai's fans, so I can't.
Yes, it
I
was a
can't be too
win.
upset.
That was exciting for all of Kai's fans. That's true. But if it makes you feel any better, if your two invitational cards got into a fight, your 1-3 defeats his 2-1 pretty easily.
I never thought about that before, but that is that is some solace. I do like that. Yeah, I built the deck. I remember I told some people last night. I said I like the deck I'm playing, but I hope the field doesn't have too much combo or too much oath. And I played against the combo oath deck, so it was gonna be tough to get there.
That's true. That is sort of like a chocolate and peanut butter sandwich that's just really bad for you in both every possible way. So the one play that I just racked my brain about was leading with Lodestone instead of Thorn.
Oh, that was a misclick. There was no defense for leading with the Lodestone there. That was just wrong. I think I only got one. I would have only gotten one turn with a Lodestone. I don't recall. So I don't think it would have won me the game, but it certainly would have been so much better. Unless there were 2 turns. I lost track. It's all a blur. But absolutely no. There's no defense for leading with a Lodestone there. I can't think of a single card he could be running that would make that right. The correct play there was definitely to play the Thorn first.
Oh. All right. I mean, I know that you like artifact creatures. In fact, I look at the chat and I see it filling up with a bunch of robots, which I have to assume is in your honor.
I hope so. That's pretty great.
Lots of green brass men, as far as I can tell, in tribute to you. So, what was your decision to play tiny robots? I know that you played that in real life in the past, and I think recently I was talking about what a bad deck it was, and then I got run over by it. So, well,
no, I like it. I'm a fan. I mean, obviously, it was better with your Lodestone.
What is your decision on?
It is a combination of things. I mean, I still think Mentor is probably some deck with Mentors and Gushes, and it's probably the objective best deck. But I wanted to mix it up a little. I like the robots list. I still don't understand how it works, but it does tend to keep working for me. But like I said, Oath matchup is one that I have not even. That sideboard plan I had against Oath, it's not like that's a plan that I tested and found to be the best. That's just the latest thing I'm trying. That's a really tough matchup because unlike other shop stacks, you can't. The Oath has to resolve. You can't win without playing creatures, and most of the creatures are not going to win on their own, like a Lodestone Golem. A Memnite is not what you want to have in your hand against Oath. I'm surprised that a Memnite's what you want in your hand against anything, but it turns out that sometimes it is.
Oh,
but not against Oath.
Memnite is a creature of limited ability. Lodestone's a creature of less limited ability. Elish Nor is a monster of not unlimited ability, and Kai is so unlimited he's omnipotent and omniscient. And
yes, he was both of those things.
I'm getting feedback in the chat that my mic's not working. Let me try just using my computer directly then.
Sure.
There. Is that any better? There.
Sounds fine to me, but I don't know what the chat was here.
One robot in this conversation, and I am not he. Hopefully from Arabian Nights, but you're supposed to be the robot. See. So
yeah, the tiny robot stack, it's pretty fun. You got to see some of what it does in action today, which is sometimes you just play a dozen creatures and attack with a single pest, which is nice. The one thing we didn't get to see is every once in a while you go crazy with Skull Clamp. With the Skull Clamp Galarian Academy, I've drawn like 20 cards in a turn. It's not what the deck is trying to do, but it happens, and it's fun when it does. I don't know. Looks like the video is being pretty skippy right now. I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh, if it's going to be any brand of peanut butter, it might as well be that one. Um, I
All right, so we're going to be watching. Who are we going to be watching? It looks like Dave Williams and Reed Duke. Not.
all right.
Oh, it looks like we are actually ready to go. So we don't have to guess what they're playing. We can find out. We'll head over to them right now.
All right, here we go.
All right, welcome back. We have
Dave Williams. Wow.
Yeah, so we have Reed on basically his expected Storm combo deck. He knows how to play the deck. He knows how to play it very well. He usually plays it. It's not a surprise, but it's probably not a mistake either. Dave Williams, he's playing Standstill. I don't know if it's the exact same list from the play-in tournament, but it seemed pretty good in the play-in, and his hand seems pretty good now.
Look at how much better Reed Duke's hand is on account of that Gataxian Probe. I love Gataxian Probe.
Yeah, he's not going to walk into that Force of Will, which is pretty nice.
Right, exactly. Without Gataxian Probe, Reed can just get his car and drive straight into a brick wall. But Gataxian Probe gives him a slight map so he can try to veer around that wall.
It's true. I suspect Reed is experienced enough with the deck that he can kind of anticipate and play around counters even without a probe, but having the probe certainly makes it a lot of help. So Dave Williams is first. He's going to decide. Yeah, he's going to decide whether to play that under or ancestral or pass.
Would you rather draw 3 cards or draw 1 card, Brassy?
Well, often I would lead with the Ponder, being afraid of counters, though Reed usually doesn't play counters, usually doesn't play missteps, so the ancestral should be good here.
In a lot of his lists.
Mm-hmm. But the stands are good too. He also doesn't have any moxes, so he could play the ancestral and discard 2 cards. So the Ponder's defensible there. Second Force of Will isn't bad to have.
Second Force of Will puts this squarely in his favor.
Yeah, especially because Reed's hand, it's not like Reed's hand could force Dave Williams to use a Force of Will right now. If he had to use a Force of Will right now, he would lose the Jace or the Ancestral. Probably not the Ancestral. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, he's a mana short from Yawmoth's Bargain. So he's not going to play anything this turn that requires a Force, which means that Dave Williams is going to have two Forces and presumably as many blue cards as he wants.
Reed's going to get a card and a lot of data here. I think. What do you think Reed wants to draw? Is it Defense Grid?
Defense Grid would be great. It's getting countered. That's basically it, right? He wants to force Dave Williams to play a Force of Will this turn, and he doesn't want to have to expend a Dark Ritual to do it. That was not the worst.
Soundwalk's not at all the worst. It's perfectly fine. Sometimes you go exploring, right?
It'd be a lot better if he had lands in his hand. Oh, he has the 1 land. Yeah, so he can actually.
He has the Mire.
Yeah, if Dave Williams didn't have 2 Force of Wills, this sets him up for a bargain right now, which would be fantastic. But he does have 2 Force of Wills, so that bargain would not resolve, and Reed probably won't play it.
Yeah. It would actually not at all be a bargain for Reed.
That's true.
Like a Yawgmoth's Lemon. Reed Duke will be dealing with consumer affairs, and it'll just be a mess. So
I wonder what happens if Reed draws a Cabal Therapy right now.
Wow.
Well, he didn't, so Dave Williams continues to look like he's in really good shape this game.
Well, Reed could try to play Yawgmoth's Will here, which will get forced, but it'll take one of those cards out of Dave's hand, and any of those cards in Dave's hand is terrifying.
The Yawgmoth's Will, it probably gets forced, but let's to play it out. If he played Yawgmoth's Will and Dave Williams didn't force it, Reed Duke gets a time walk and a Gataxian Probe.
Yeah, and a land draw. Well, a bonus land. But I
almost wonder
crashing it here because basically anything that Dave pitches to stop this is going to be a fine thing for Reed.
Yeah, I almost wonder. I mean, this is the we have a Fazzini from the Princess Bride situation. Reed Duke knows that Dave Williams has forces, but Dave Williams knows that Reed Duke knows that Dave Williams has forces. So he knows that Reed Duke is not going to play Yawgmoth's Will if his only way of winning is resolving that Yawgmoth's Will through a force.
Oh, I like forcing this pitching Jace, which is also what Dave likes doing. It's not that it's great. It's just that, you have the Ancestral next turn.
Yeah, and Yawgmoth's Will is basically an Ancestral here. It draws him 3 cards. It's not bad to force that.
Right.
So there's this edge case. Dave Williams draws no blue cards.
Yeah.
Reed Duke wins on his turn. But assuming Reed goes for it, which he probably wouldn't. But this hand's a lot. It all comes down to the Ancestor, right?
Well, actually, now Reed knows that Dave didn't draw a blue card, right?
I think so.
So, because the Wasteland was the unknown card, so now Reed knows that if he goes for it, Dave either loses Ancestral or has a non-zero chance of not hitting a blue card. So I actually think Reed has to go, or it behooves Reed to go for it here.
Yeah, I mean it's a risky play, but it might be the best play.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, if he had drawn, there's any number of cards he could have drawn to change that math, but Mox Emerald is not one of them.
Grid, Duress, lots of fun things that Reed could have drawn, but
he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to use the ritual, so
right.
That's not so bad. As scary and powerful as Ancestral is, I've definitely seen people lose from this situation. If he needs to draw the blue card and he doesn't draw it,
it's non-deterministic that he will have a blue card after casting Ancestral. So if you're Dave, do you give a thought to just pitching your Ancestral here?
I mean, you got to think about this. You have to assume that Yawgmoth's Bargain is a win.
Yeah.
Given that, David was got to think, what are my odds of drawing 1 blue card out of 3 compared to the loss of he's going to be down 2 cards if he doesn't Ancestral. It's a tough call.
I mean, I guess we don't have the deck lists. I don't know how many blue cards are in Dave's deck, but
I'm assuming main deck he has some number of Swords to Plowshares and other cards that are not that great in this matchup.
I'd be too scared to Ancestral here, I think.
I'm really not sure what I would do. This is being in this situation is one of the reasons why I would consider not forcing the Yawgmoth's Will, but it's totally possible that if he didn't, Reed would be way far ahead right now. Too much would be different to determine anything there.
I mean, I like Dave's Force of Will there. It is a 3-for-1 for Reed, which is non-negligible.
Yeah, I do not envy Dave Williams right now. This is not an easy decision.
No, I don't think I would cast Ancestral. I think I would just throw the Force as it is. But I'm not sure that's correct. That's a really hard call. Someone in chat pointing out that Reed could have the Misstep in hand, which would make the Ancestral not just wrong, but embarrassing.
That's true. A Misstep would be a blowout here.
It's also worth pointing out that while Dave Williams is the control deck with a bunch of draw cards, Reed Duke is casting possibly the best draw spell ever printed.
That's true. I've always felt Storm is deceptively controlling in a control against a control deck because
forces the control player to do things to react to it.
Yeah, and if the game goes long enough, it can build up this overpowering hand that fights through counters. Losing, going down to no real threats. I mean, even if he forces and he's out of cards here, the factory represents a slow clock, but it represents a clock.
It does.
I don't. If he forces here pitching the Ancestral, I'm not sure who has the better game state. Really, Reed has so many live draws and so many dead draws.
Dave would have a bunch of live draws. Standstill, Storm. Or swords are bad. At this point, Monastery Mentor is not the best thing you've ever seen.
That bargain.
Yep, you can have 4 Gristlebrand's in your deck, but only 1 bargain. And it looks like Dave is just
He's
not...
pitching the Ancestral. The conservative play, can't blame him for that.
He's not trusting his secrets to the sea, and that's the play that I would have made there.
So this basically puts Reed on a path. He's going to draw something threatening, and he's got some time. He's got something like 8 turns.
All right, there's 1 non-blue draw, so Dave has to be feeling pretty good about that.
All right, cuts Reed off. That's important because Dark Petition is a very good draw for Reed, and that cuts him off the Dark Petition. Now Reed has the Dark Ritual, but obviously Dave Williams doesn't know that.
Right, so now Reed's going to look at Dave's hand.
Sees that the coast is clear.
Oh man, it's Praetor's Grasp.
So,
what can you Praetor's Grasp for here?
So you don't have the Ancestral anymore. The default play I've seen Reed do is Lotus, but this isn't a hand where you want Lotus. I think if he can get some kind of value draw spell.
Treasure Cruise would be great here.
Yeah, Treasure Cruise wouldn't be bad. There's a small chance he doesn't. I think he has to play it now. He has to burn the Dark Ritual to do it, but it's really good. Now we haven't seen any of Dave Williams' deck. There's a small chance that he is running black and has a Demonic Tutor or a Yelmont's in his deck. Now I'm going to guess that's not the case, but
unlikely.
But all Reed knows at this point, we see Standstill, but all Reed knows is he's got Wastelands and Tundra. So that's
there's also a good chance that Dave Williams has Crucible in his deck, which.
Yeah, I mean, Reed gets
else that could be a card that prevents Reed mana base from just getting imploded.
That's true. Yeah.
Now, Kai's pointing out, what about Mentor? That would be a really interesting line, too. In fact, Brassy, isn't Mentor Storm your specialty?
I have played Mentor Storm a few times. I'm a big fan of it. His hand doesn't necessarily capitalize on that. He would have no cards in hand after the Mentor resolves, but it represents a threat. Yeah, there's so many things you could get here that would be good. Praetor's Grasp is a fun card. All right, so we're seeing some of the cards in the hand view. Oh, just put it on screen, but that's okay. Certainly didn't see any.
Do we see a Dragon Lord there?
I did not see if you had a Dragon Lord or not. I didn't see any black cards. I saw some Flusterstorms, which he obviously doesn't want here. But yeah, Mentor was an option. I suspect if not Treasure Cruise, some blue draw spell is an option.
Yeah.
Standstill would be pretty. No, he knows his opponent is the factory. That'd be pretty awful. It's tough. He takes Mentor. That's great, but he knows that Dave Williams is 1 land away from playing his own. Mm-hmm. So then the game comes down to top decks.
I think it's Treasure Cruise if the deck has it, but the deck doesn't always have that.
Mm-hmm. Tough decision from Dave on that Force. Tough decision from Reed on that Praetor's Grasp.
This is. So now, this would be a good time to, if you could put any card that, so we're going to preview one more card tonight. What would you pick if you were going to have one card be our preview card, Brassy?
Oh, Brassman.
Okay, that makes sense. I would go with
Okay.
Adelon.
That was a good one. But second pick. Oh, we can see the library now. So Crucible's nice. Jace is pretty close to castable.
1 mana away.
Yeah, nothing
there's
like no treasure cruise.
No, there's no
I feel
treasure
like-
cruise. I actually think it's Mentor because Jace and Dig Through Time both cost blue.
Yeah, I feel like it's Mentor's a reasonable pick here. I'd be tempted to go with a draw spell in case he drew the blue because the Mentor could easily get stopped by Dave's Mentor if he doesn't draw anything. But
I like Mentor here. Mentor
it buys him time too. Worst case
turns
scenario.
off Dave drawing and playing Standstill, which is the worst thing. That's the worst case scenario, and this shuts it off. So I like that just fine.
Yeah. All right, Dave gets the Tundra. So next turn he gets to play his own Mentor, and then it's going to be a battle of who can draw more spells, I guess.
Draw to a perfectly good draw here.
Yeah, Mentor's good at that. So next turn a 3/3 would not be enough to attack into a factory. This turn it's fine because the factory has Summoning Sickness if it gets activated, so it can't pump itself up to block and kill it.
Oh, but here's
Dave Williams, Monastery Mentor. But that times him out. So if Reduke draws a spell, he's got that tempo advantage.
People have been complaining that Vintage is coming down to too many Mentor mirrors.
I don't know if this counts as a Mentor mirror or not, but that's certainly how it's playing out.
Looks like one to me.
Yeah, it's funny how at this point in the game, a duress that misses is, a slightly above average card for Reed to draw. Just getting that tempo in, it's pretty nice. You can't really block either of those creatures. Stab's not the card Dave Williams wants here. That's not bad.
That would be exciting. He draws one drop.
That's true. Pedal.
Hey,
all these draws, would not have been that good if he did not have the Mentor out. But if he had gotten either of the other cards we were talking about, he would have nothing here.
That's true. So right now, Reduke is really reaping the rewards of picking Mentor.
Second misstep, also not so great.
If Reed ever draws a 1-drop, man, that's great.
That's not bad.
These are fine. These are perfectly fine. Reed he doesn't even need Tendrils to storm off. He can Tendrils off his Mentor.
He doesn't know that Dave Williams has no responses, but if he were to play both the artifacts and attack with his team, it would put Dave Williams in a real awkward spot. He could double block the Mentor, but then he would go to 1 and lose both of his guys.
I feel pretty bad for Reed Duke here. I assume he picked Storm because he didn't want to deal with combat math. And now this is...
Well, he shouldn't have played that Praetor's Grasp, though.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Praetor's Grasp just really
when I think creature combat, I think Praetor's Grasp.
You're right. Reed has no one to blame but himself for this. Oh, it looks like he's going to move in here.
All right, which feels very good for Reed.
Yes,
there's a few different ways Dave Williams can block, but all of them end with him not having a ton of life and being down at least one of his creatures. Yeah, things change a lot if one of those spells was a 1-drop. He'd still get the tokens and the pump, but then Dave Williams would get tokens and a pump, and that makes the blocks a lot easier for him. If you could even misstep it twice, he probably would. All right, getting in there. Some angry monks.
Yeah, this. All right, so there's a much less powerful monk and his good robot friend there, and they can try to stand up against these more powerful monks. This looks like the beginning of a kung fu movie.
It does quite look like the beginning of a kung fu movie. A great one too. I mean,
yeah,
we have factories turning into walking robots. It doesn't get any better than this.
I guess this might be slightly more anime than kung fu movie, but either way, I tune in.
So Dave Williams has 1-3-3 in the factory and a 2-2 in the monk. So some of the options here is he can block and kill both the tokens, keep his factory around. He takes 4 and goes to 5, but then Reed still has a mentor and 2 monks, and he has no monk of his own. That's not too appealing. He could double block Reed's monk. He would lose one of his 2 creatures and go to 1. Probably doesn't win that game either.
So I'm trying to think of what outs that Dave Williams has, and I think the out might actually be dig through time into Black Lotus and dig through time into Black Lotus and Supreme Verdict doesn't even work here, does it?
Yeah, he doesn't have the lands for that. I mean, anything. If his monk survives to his turn, anything that gets him a couple tokens isn't bad, right? I mean, even just a brainstorm, he can misstep it and then misstep to misstep. Generate 3 tokens during combat. If Reed came in with everything next turn, he would blow away his team.
No more robot friends for Dave. His monk's all by himself now. Wow, Flusterstorm.
All right, that's not the one drop he wanted. That's not going to do it.
Usually Flusterstorm is a wonderful draw for a control deck against Storm. Not so much today.
Yeah, I guess this is everything you want when you put a Praetor's Grasp in your deck, right? You want to win. You want to beat your opponent with their own win condition. That's the dream. You wouldn't run Praetor's Grasp if you didn't secretly hope for this to happen every game.
Just to go through tournaments feeding all of your opponents with their own cards. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Reed's in great shape here. He has to attack with everything. He doesn't know the 3 cards in Dave Williams' hand. A lot of cards could be amazing if he had like a gush in a few instants, but he didn't. Reed swings in. So we get to go to game 2.
Grasp, Reed drew absolutely nothing of consequence, but it didn't matter because Monetary Mentor sort of turns your garbage into good cards. It's kind of like a Goblin Welder. And
all right, sounds like in the other match, Tom Martell is up a game, and they're in game 2 now. So Reed bringing in the defense grids, not a surprise there. Looks like he brought in some.
Fighter's Grasp? I can't understand why you do that after all it's done for him.
Yeah, Dave Williams.
Stony Silence is good here, right?
Yeah, I suspect it would be. Now, I think the modern breed of Storm deck is a lot more resilient to a Null Rod than they used to be, but I'd still...
yeah, the modern one doesn't even play any artifacts. I think all the good ones are banned in Modern anyway.
Oh, sorry. The currently played Storm deck in Vintage.
Yes.
Yeah. But I still a beating. You still don't want to see it. It's just you have more ways to win without artifacts than you used to.
There's Reed cutting Imperial Seal. Now, Imperial Seal is a card that could be in Modern Masters. We don't actually know it's going to get previewed tonight. For all I know, it could be Imperial Seal. But I've never been a big fan of Imperial Seal in these decks. I feel like losing one card is bad, and ever since Jace the Mind Sculptor got printed, it opens you up to one of the worst feel-bads that there is in Vintage.
That is rough with the Imperial Seal. It's a tough call. I like. I used to play Vampiric Tutor and everything, and now it's and Mystical Tutor too, in any control deck. But it just doesn't feel, in a world of missteps and Flusterstorms, it's not quite as good as it used to be. But in a Storm deck, it's still, you have such powerful effects. So Reed, I think we saw this in the main event. He took a screenshot of Dale Williams' deck when he played Praetor's Grasp, and he's checking it out to see if he has the sideboard differently.
Yeah, that's smart. We're playing with, 40-minute rounds? Other people besides Steve have to be able to take advantage of that, too.
So I didn't get a look at what Dave Williams boarded in, but no doubt he has plenty of stuff that's not so great in the matchup. Some creature removal would have been good for him last game, but I don't suspect he's on that game plan.
Well, wow. So Dave has a great opener. That looks like an Arcane Lab
That
over
is a
there.
turn 1 Arcane Lab.
And
a Mindbreak Trap and a Mental Misstep to stop his opponent from winning on game 1. It's a solid, definitely a good 6-card hand from Reed. And he's got the probe, so he's not going to walk into that Mindbreak Trap, but he is still going to have to deal with a turn 1 Arcane Lab.
So back in the 90s, Necropotence was lovingly called the Skull. And of course, as you can see, it's got Mark Deedon artwork of a giant skull. Personally, I think that for the Eternal Masters artwork, they should have swapped the art between Necropotence and Vampiric Tutor. Vampiric Tutor is a skull, and the Necropotence artwork is, I have no idea, but it might as well be a vampire.
Yeah, I like the art for the Vampiric Tutor, but it doesn't feel very vampiric to me. I think I get what you're saying. Would have been a great demonic tutor. But I do like the art.
Yeah, demons and vampires have a tutor. Why not a skeleton tutor? He can teach you all about bones. Help you become a medical doctor. So I think skeletal tutor would have been great. We already have skeletal scrying. Why not complete the cycle?
Yeah, Delio says that he's got to feel real comfortable playing Arcane Lab here.
I don't know. This kind of shuts off his Mindbreak Trap.
I think he's fine with that.
Well,
so of all the outs Reed could have to this, I didn't get a good look, so I don't know what he has. But Chain of Vapor is the classic answer to this sort of card. Delio's not the misstep. There's not much he can do. We would have to draw like a series of correct spells to get through that.
Oh, that's interesting. Dave looks like he's mental misstepping the Soul Ring rather than saving it for a Chain of Vapor.
Yeah, I mean, Reed might not even have Chain of Vapor, so this is a reasonable tempo play.
Oh, and speaking of reasonable, here's Mental back for vengeance.
Yeah, not bad.
For killing him and his robot friend earlier.
Yeah, Reed has this very solid hand, but I suspect it is not going to be enough, especially not knowing what kind of outs he has to the Arcane Lab. It's not going to be enough to get through this. Can't even play the Sapphire after the Brainstorm.
I think he cut Predator's Grasp, so he can't even hope that Dave has an out to this. Well,
now, I think there are lots of cards in Reed's deck that are good against the strategy of Arcane Lab. I mean, if he gets a small Empty the Warrens down early, Arcane Lab's really bad. But a turn 1 Arcane Lab is not particularly easy to beat.
Yeah, here comes Stamps. That takes the number of spells you can cast from 1 right down to 0.
From 1 to 0.
As a computer scientist, those are the numbers I like to work in, so I think that's good.
That's as a tiny robots player. Those are the casting costs I like to run. 1s and 0s.
If it doesn't get countered by Mental Misstep, it gets countered by Nyx. Not the idea.
I like it. So Reed has the Chain of Vapor, and Dave Williams no longer has the answer to this. Well, I guess Reed he's got the Flusterstorm, so he doesn't now.
He has Flusterstorm plus the top 3 cards of his library.
Yeah, there's no. I think Reed has to just play the Chain of Vapor. Which is unfortunate because he could win through the Flusterstorm if he plays very slowly, but he can't just assume Davis has 2 cards in hand. It has to be Flusterstorm or Force, I guess.
Yeah, no, I like this. And hey, there's 3 cards, none of which are blue, but in this particular case, it's okay. Dave has Flusterstorm.
It's a real shame. If that Tellurian Academy was a fetch land,
yeah.
Now he would still be tapped out. The Arcanite's coming down next turn. He wouldn't have a window, but yeah. If the chain resolves, he gets to Time Twister right now, which gets rid of the lab, puts him in pretty good shape. But chain's not resolving. I don't know how many Alex Reed had in his deck, if he only has one chain, he can't even use the Almost Will to get it back. I guess he can Time Twister, but that's not pretty.
No, that's wow. And there's a bonus copy of Standstill.
There's the next one. So Dave Williams gets to decide if he wants to. Oh, he's going for the Mox instead.
Perfectly reasonable. It also means that he can waste one of Reed's lands, and I kind of like hitting the resource that Reed actually has on the table now.
Yeah, that's not bad. But he's got Hardcast Mindbreak Trap, which is probably good enough to handle anything Reed can play. I guess the best Standstill could have done is drawn into a counter, and just gives him a counter, which is just as good.
That's true. You only need one.
And he's got a spell for next turn, so he has lethal on the board.
And a rough spot for Reed Duke here. He can't even alt cast this.
All he can do is play the probe and see his fate. He even has the Almost Will if the Arcane Lab didn't stop him from playing it.
That's true. Yawgmoth doesn't do very well in the laboratory. He tries to do something, breaks all the beakers, breaks all the Bunsen burners, lab burns down. It's a bad day.
At the business, we call that Yawgmoth won't. Sorry about that. All right, so looking at Dayling's deck, he's got those Arcane Labs, boarded out some swords and the Supreme Verdicts. Reed's going for a slightly different plan now. I suspect maybe be a little more aggressive because the Arcane Lab's tough to beat, so you just want to win before that happens.
He could not possibly have done last game, but yeah.
Arcane I mean he's on the play this time, and some players with Storm, I also see it with Shops a lot, will have different strategies for being on the play and being on the draw.
Oh, did Imperial Seal come back in?
I think it was still on the sideboard.
Okay.
All right, not an exciting hand for Reed. A decent hand for Dave Williams, I think.
I think, yeah, Reed has to ship this back. Dave has quite a solid hand. This is the kind of hand that Dave has that I really enjoy playing. Just makes Magic so much fun. Now,
if Reed is feeling very greedy and he plays like a Taxian Probe into a Mana Source, he gets to windfall right now, and Dave Williams can't do anything about it.
Gosh, that sure is greedy.
Which would be great, but that would be very greedy. I doubt he would do that.
I can't brook doing that. Maybe if Reed had a Scry, but I can't keep this. And I really am a greedy Magic player, but that's not even Gordon Gekko level. That on the other.
That's a turn one Necro. No complaints there. Dave Williams' hand is, suited to fight against that, but
yeah,
I'd rather be the person with the Necro.
Well, I mean, I think if I were in David Williams' shoes, I would keep this hand and then proceed to lose. But I would not have it in me to ship back this hand.
I mean, there's a decent chance that Dave Williams does not lose next turn. He's going to keep up. He's going to have counters up. Necro can definitely stall out if the opponent has enough counters. Dave Williams got plenty of cards he can draw. I mean, Necro does not help you beat the Arcane Lab if Dave Williams draws that and plays it on a second turn.
That's true.
Not so bad. We will see what Reed gets. I'm definitely always fascinated by the question of how many cards do you get with Necro when you just don't know, especially with a hand like this where it's not like those are 3 bad cards in hand. Those are 3 solid cards.
Bargain loses a lot of its value. Time Twister's still a card. Vamp's still a card. I think I would take 6 here.
I've heard. I heard a rule of thumb told me once by a much better Storm player than I am, that you spend 2 life for every card you're not going to keep. So it would be 10 life here because he's going to keep Vamp Time Twister. But as all rule of thumbs, that's very rough and can be very dangerous. I wouldn't draw 14 cards if I only had no cards in hand. If I only had no cards in hand.
Oh, and it looks like in our other brackets, Tom defeated Caleb in 2.
All right. So after this game, we'll be able to go pretty quickly.
So
So it looks like 9 cards.
4, 5, 6, 7, 9. All right. So looks like he was in agreement with you. Wow, and a red blast to get rid of Arc Lab. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's not bad. Did not see that before. That's what he wants, and he's got the defense grid, which punches right through Dave Williams' counter.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he has an immediate kill on his turn, though he's got vampiric plus ways to draw the card. So
we're getting word that Caleb played Tesserator more or less. That's a quote from Rand.
Tesserator more or less.
More or less, yes. Well, so looking at Reed's hand, there's a good chance that Bargain can just go.
Yeah, I don't mind that here at all.
Mana Crypt looks really dangerous here to keep.
It does, but I mean, I feel like he's got a, it punches through all those counters. He doesn't know if Dave Williams has force or not.
Yeah. Well, he knows that Dave Williams does not have force.
Oh, yes, that's true. He doesn't know if he has. I guess, Flusterstorm. The defense grid beats the Flusterstorm and wouldn't beat it beats a force too. So presumably on Reed's turn, he gets to vamp and Gitaxian Probe into any card for 1 mana. So looking at that,
I guess you can play Mana Crypt Grid right away.
Mm-hmm. He could also play an empty. It's like a greedy, reasonably sized empty, and draw a few more cards to fill up. Wouldn't be bad here.
Time Twister.
Yep, and he could just go for the Twister. In which case, he could possibly vamp for Lotus to generate mana if he's going to Twister anyway. Lots of options here.
Yeah. Now, is there a kill involving Yawgmoth's Swill? I don't see one.
I think he would need... Oh, he's got a ritual in his graveyard.
I think he needs a little more mana to start.
A reasonable play... Reed is definitely a more experienced Storm pilot than I am. I would strongly consider just leading the turn with the Brainstorm and seeing what happens, right? If you... Or leading the turn with possibly Defense Grid, then Brainstorm. If you draw nothing, you can make a conservative play. If you draw a single ritual or like a Lotus, then you might be able to win.
Another possibility is actually leading with the Gitaxian Probe, and then you can use the Brainstorm to get whatever card you want with Vampire Tutor.
Yeah, the Gitaxian Probe.
And then
is certainly nice here.
But I'll let Reed
know. You get to know whether or not you need to play the defense grid. Though every 2 life is pretty critical here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so he got rid of the Brainstorm, so he's definitely not doing that play. He got rid of the Probe, too.
Okay.
So...
All right.
So he's obviously playing the Time Twister on his turn.
Yep.
And he's going to force it to resolve, whether that's with Duress or Defense Grid.
So if he plays Duress first, then he can't play Grid and Twist.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect with Time Twister, he's going to lead with the Defense Grid because Time Twister is great after... The Defense Grid is great after the Twister resolves, and Duress is terrible after the Twister resolves.
Right.
Because he gets his hand back.
So it looks like he's going to probably lead with the Grid, and then if that goes wrong, he can chip away at Dave's hand.
Yeah, and chipping away at his hand is not that bad when you have, when you have Duress, Red Blast, and Necro out.
Right.
And he gets to play the Grid without playing the Mana Crypt. So he doesn't have to walk into that dangerous play. If he plays the Grid off Mox Ruby, if it resolves, he just plays Crypt and Twister. If it doesn't resolve, he gets to slow play and hold the Crypt for later.
That's true. but it looks like it will resolve because Dave doesn't have anything to stop it. Dave could run out.
Yeah, he could play standstill and possibly draw 2 counters. Yeah, I mean, we know he's got Mindbreak Trap in his deck. We know he's got Forces. So there's a chance he draws more counters off of standstill than he saves by playing the Flusterstorm. Yep. So I think this opens up sort of a third option for Reed, which is Duress, and then play Defense Grid, and then draw 3 cards.
So does that run too much into? That's actually really interesting. That's really interesting. So the Duress gets countered.
Yeah, I mean, the best play for him, knowing Dave Williams' hand, is probably play Defense Grid off of Ruby. Like, play Delta, play Defense Grid off of Ruby. Fight over it with a Red Blast if you have to.
I think if he's going to do that, I like starting with Duress.
All right, so he's playing the Mana Crypt now, so he's planning on playing all the spells. Well, we can't see the hand. So we know these drew Arcane Lab.
Arc Lab. Oh, so he's just going to run out the grid first.
Yeah, I think he's going for the Twister right now, which is
right.
Now that the grid's resolved, now the play is straightforward.
So Reed Duke's already made his land drop for the turn, but he has a lot of artifact land drops.
Yeah. So he's got to fetch, and he's got to consider the possibility that he could lose a Mana Crypt flip. So he's effectively at 6 life as far as Necro is concerned.
Mm-hmm. He also undoes all the card draw from that standstill.
Yep, which is nice.
But don't worry, Dave Williams drew 3 more, so it's okay.
It's true. But the Defense Grid's not bad against that hand there. That's...
So Reed's hand doesn't do anything now, but it looks like he gets to have a really fun next turn.
Yeah, it doesn't seem too bad next turn. I'm wondering if he draws any cards here.
I don't think so. I think
one card.
Great. He can even deal with an Arc Lab.
Yeah, I guess his hand's not going to get too much better. I mean, it would be better with a Ritual, but the chances of him naturally drawing that are pretty low. So Dave Williams is going to have to decide on his next turn, assuming Reed passes here, and I don't think Reed can afford to just Gitaxian Probe and hope to draw Lotus. Assuming Reed passes, Dave Williams has to make the decision of, do I play Rest in Peace and waste his land, or do I just play a 3rd land and have a counter up through Defense Grid?
You know, Dave has to be scared when Reed opts not to draw a single card with Necropotence. In other words, he doesn't want to pay 1 life to cycle any card in his hand.
Yeah, he's pretty happy. Or Reed's pretty happy, obviously, with everything he has.
Given that, I like the Rest in Peace play, because I have to think that Reed has a ridiculously good hand here.
He's going to go for the kill, yeah. It's more likely, yeah, I think you're right. I think Reed's more likely to have an answer to a single counter than he is to have an answer to a Rest in Peace. If Reed's going for the kill next turn.
If Reed had paid like 4 life or something, that might be different. But with Reed not wanting to Tybalt any of his cards away, I think you just go with this. The worst possible play for Dave, of course, would be to play Standstill and pass.
Correct. He plays Standstill and passes. Yeah, this is tough. I'd be tempted to play a land and pass here, but I think you're totally right. I think that Defense Grid, even when you have the 3 mana, it doesn't just shut off. It doesn't just stop working once you have 3 mana, right? It means that Reed knows he can only counter 2 spells this turn, and a combo player can play around. Around that.
It's not Leonine Arbiter, which you pay some mana to, and then it's sated for the turn.
So he's playing the Rest in Peace, not playing the... Did you already play a land this turn?
He already played a land. He needed to play
he played the island.
So now it looks like Reed can have an enjoyable time, even without Dark Petition. He can still
the Dark Petition wasn't totally necessary there. I mean, he could still even Dark Petition for Lotus just to generate 2 Storm. I think that might work out for him. No, he doesn't have the black mana to do that profitably. Oh, but he'd get Lotus, so he would. So I haven't counted up all his mana yet. I don't know exactly what he can do, but presumably a large.
Just 5. And it'll go up to 8 once he plays the Academy. But the Black Lotus is worth 3 mana, which is a lot.
4 if he doesn't have to tap the Academy before he gets it.
Well, also, if that Red Blast were a Pyroblast, it would be strictly better here for building Storm.
That is true. It's actually surprising because he probably doesn't have any reason to run a split.
No, I
Storm
like
is a deck that definitely could.
Richard Thomas artwork, don't get me wrong. Richard's a fine name and all. But,
Yeah, there was a time in Vintage where they were basically exactly the same card, but I think between Storm decks and Jack Faden's Ultimate, I think Pyroblast is just the better card. And because no one plays Meddling Mage anymore. Like, there was a time when that was something that you might have to worry about.
Also, sometimes you Praetor's Grasp your opponent, you get his Monastery Mentor, and then you can just fire that off and get a Monk token.
That's true. Getting a ritual there, it's pretty nice for Reed.
That was pretty small.
If he wants a large Desire, he gets a large Desire. It's a question of whether he wants to generate 2 Storm off that Dark Petition first.
It only costs him 1 net mana to do that. Because getting the Lotus generates 3 itself plus the 1 off the Academy.
Yeah, so it's not bad. The only question is, would he rather have 2 Storm or the ability to Dark Petition after the Desire resolves? I kind of like 2 Storm here.
I also like 2 Storm.
Yeah, this isn't even a desperation play. He's doing the kind of things that you do when you have 1 turn left, but like if he whiffs off the Desire, he can still draw, 3 cards. It's not great. Or aggressively draw 4 or 5.
He'll be able to puncture whatever Dave Williams is trying to do with that Duress.
And you're not gonna draw 0 cards off Desire. You might get like a couple cantrips and Duresses, but maybe that's fine if you're gonna draw 3 next turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Petition we're assuming Lotus.
Right.
There's probably a few
I know that Dark Petition doesn't have Spell Mastery, but it can still get Black Lotus. So getting Black Lotus, it only costs you 1 mana. Unless Reed has some crazy line that we didn't even think of. Oh, he got
Chain Vapor generates even more Storm. So if he had enough mana, I wasn't counting. If he's got plenty of mana, with or without, why not?
So Chain Vapor is interesting here. He could... So, in theory, of course, if he threw it at the Rest in Peace, Dave could throw it back at Defense Grid. But Reed could counter his very own chain if that were to happen with his Red Blast, thereby increasing Storm even further. And in that way, Reed could have sort of built his own Pyroblast.
That would not be bad. I think he'd be 1 mana less if he had that. I think he's got the mana to spare. So he gets to do this. He wants to leave 2 black and a blue floating if at all possible, and I think he's got the mana to do it.
Alright, here's Duress. Dave Williams' hand got even worse. And now it's time for Mind's Desire. So,
alright,
the guy in Mind's Desire looks like he's thinking about Merfolk and... but let's see what Reed Duke is thinking about. Duress... Mana Vault.
Yeah, tough to see. So yeah, they're flipping over the bottom. There's a Duress in there, a Bloodstained Mire. Nothing mind blowing yet. Oh, he's showing the revealed on screen. Oh, he drew some cards. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything ancestral, which he's already cast.
Man,
I can't see.
not a lot of choices.
Yeah, I can't see if he flipped over anything. That's just
I can't
game
tell.
ending.
Slowly getting revealed. Is just
Yeah, it looks like no actual game-changing business. But this does let him. He gets to draw those extra cards. It might have been a decent play for him not to have replayed the Mana Crypts. I think he still has the mana. He wouldn't have a black and a blue floating now, but this means he only gets to draw 3 cards right now off of Necro, as opposed to like 6.
Wow.
But you can't expect a Desire for 9 to whip like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in quite a while. And I've won off Desires for 2 before. 9 should normally do it. But if that Pyroblast
So
better
Dark
card.
Petition is not going to do it in and of itself, but it could get a Tendrils. Well, actually, I don't know if he has. If he doesn't have 2 Tendrils, so Dark Petition can get a small Tendrils, right?
Many Tendrils won't do it.
But it puts him back in the game. He gets to draw cards. He gets to draw into Dave Williams with the Arcane Lab.
There's an Arc Lab, but it's not actually going to be all that bad. On the other hand, Reed doesn't have in the way of mana. But Reed can...
Oh, he's got the Red Blast. Sorry. Yeah, the Red Blast.
Well, yep. Arcane Lab would be good if Reed didn't have that Red Blast.
That is correct. Yeah, I think Reed has to go for a small Tendrils next turn. Gain some life and then use that life to Necro into an Empty the Warrens. I think that's his game plan here.
If he left those in, if not, he can't make that play.
He did have them in game 2. I didn't see if he has them now.
Do you think there's any value in just hitting a draw 7 if you're Reed?
I mean, if he doesn't have the Empty the Warrens, he kind of has to. I'm trying to think if Windfall wouldn't be that great for him because he wants to play his spells out first. I'm thinking the Time Twister might be exiled.
Oh.
I don't remember. I think he played the Time Twister earlier this game, right? And that would be removed.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is. JD Phoenix in the chat is saying that he does not have Empty anymore.
Okay, well, if it doesn't have Empty, then yeah, I think a draw 7 is his only option. He probably has Wheel of Fortune in his deck if he's running red. We'll see pretty soon.
All right, well, hopefully he'll remember to start things off with a Red Blast.
Yeah, it would be pretty unfortunate for him if he led with anything else.
Delicious breakfast. That's just how you start your day.
Wonder if he's thinking about end of turn Red Blast. That costs him mana. He'd have to use the Mana Vault to do that, and that wouldn't be worth it.
No, it would also walk into it would happen, but right, it would cost him a lot of his mana for this turn.
Of course, it doesn't cost him his red mana. If he draws...
But he'll be able to use Lion's Eye Diamond to make more red mana.
Yeah, I'm wondering... Oh, he can't draw anything. His Necro's out, so he's not gonna top deck the Wheel of Fortune, which would mess him up. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He's got that Mana Crypt. Easy gonna get there. It means the difference between a mana or not, so that's pretty... Okay, so Polluted Delta is turned off. Leads with the Arcane Lab.
It's really dangerous.
Easy move there. And he's going to get Dark Petition. He gets to cast whatever he wants with that Dark Petition. The question is there something in his deck that is good enough?
Does he have outs, and what are those outs? This is really exciting. So that the Rest in Peace is doing a lot of work here.
It's true. The Dark Magician would probably just win immediately without the Rest in Peace there, but yeah, and the way this game is going, not much else would have helped David. It's not like an extra counter would be useful here, so I can't argue with that. Gravehaven is definitely pretty solid against the Dark Petition deck.
Now, I guess he has to decide what to pop this for.
Yep.
Red, blue, black.
So he added red.
Now, that's worth noting that Necropotence exiled the cards that he discarded with Lion's Eye Diamond, not Rest in Peace.
Take that, Rest in Peace. You're doing nothing. Yeah. All right, Wheel of Fortune.
Of Fortune.
All right.
All right, here it is.
In the wheel.
This is exciting.
All right.
Reed hit nothing and loses.
No, he could time walk and win the Mana Crypt flip.
And then what? He doesn't get any cards. He's Necro-locked.
Oh, you're right. He's Necro-locked. So that is it.
Reed Duke is defeated by Dave Williams. What an
incredible
game that was.
I think that Mana Crypt, if that Mana Crypt was not in play, the game would be a little bit different. I think that's it.
If Mana Crypt weren't in play, Reed could see 3 more cards. So Reed desired for 9 and completely missed, and then drew 7 and also missed. That was just incredible. Reed saw
quite a few cards.
Order of his entire deck, and nothing happened.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there were lines. There were slightly different cards that if he had the Empty the Warrens or Second Tendrils, I think he easily wins.
No.
But you can't. Sometimes those cards are very bad, so you can't blame him for not wanting them this matchup.
I don't know. If we've seen any pattern tonight, it's been that boarding out win conditions means that you lose. Right? Like boarding out your Blightsteel, boarding out your Empty the Warrens. Heck, boarding out... If he had Praetor's Grasp, he would have had a fighting chance.
Yeah.
So,
oh, well. I mean, that does happen. That is the risk. I've definitely seen people lose from the turn 1 bargain. It doesn't happen often, but it definitely happens.
Yeah, it does. And that was a very solid turn 1 Necropotence. So now that Necropotence is in Eternal Masters, people can live the dream of having a turn 1 Necro and then losing because
you too.
Don't give them anything.
You too can play an early Necro.
I'm glad
maybe draw some cards, maybe not. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But it is not unfortunate for Dave Williams. And Dave Williams' deck had a variety of hate, which is something that I like in the matchup. If his deck was all... I mean, it looked like he wasn't doing much that game, but if his deck was all counters or all Arcane Labs or all Great Hate, he would have lost.
Yeah.
But since he attacked from a few different angles, he only played like 2 or 3 spells that game, but if he hadn't played those spells, I think Reed Duke wins. So, not a bad metagame choice for the plan and for the single limb afterwards.
Yeah, Landstill has been really solid all throughout the VSL.
All right, so we'll be back in a little bit. We'll show you some messages right now.
All right.